You're watching CBS7 News at 9 on the CW and live on the CBS7 YouTube channel with Alexandra, Macia, and Tom Teeperteller.
Good evening and thanks for joining us for CBS7 News on the CW, and thanks for joining us live on the CBS7 YouTube. I'm Alexandra, Macia, and we start tonight tracking crime. Back in May, this man, Joel Garcia Elizondo Jr., was arrested after he agreed to meet a 15-year-old girl outside an Odessa middle school. That girl was actually an undercover DPS agent. Elizondo was arrested and then later found guilty on the charge enticement of a minor. Today, he was sentenced to 14 years in a federal prison. U.S. Attorney Jamie Esparza commented on the case, saying in part, quote, "These investigations are crucial to protecting children across our district and the nation as they identify and apprehend adults who are willing to meet children online for sex," end quote. And now to new details. Over the weekend, the Odessa Police Department made an arrest of an 18-year-old who was being charged with murder. House Bill 6 passed earlier this year, which was co-authored by State Representative Brooks Landgraf. Nathaniel Martinez is charged with the murder, manufacture, delivery of controlled substance causing death, a felony of the first degree. Although this new law could help with fighting the war against drugs, for Representative Landgraf, it still feels like a loss.
You know, the message that I have to anybody, whether you're 18 or 88 years old, is don't push this poison. Because if you do, your life is going to be destroyed in addition to the lives that you are destroying.
Landgraf's office says fentanyl-related deaths reported in Texas increased 89% from 2020 to 2021. Since March 2021, as part of Operation Lone Star, the Texas Department of Public Safety has seized more than 434 million lethal doses of fentanyl across the state, enough fentanyl to kill every man, woman, and child in the county. And it's time to take a look at weather. Chief Meteorologist Tom Teeperteller is here to tell us what we can expect. Tom?
Well, more of the same in the forecast. We're going to warm up a little bit, but overall a pretty quiet weather pattern shaping up. High temperatures today. Added a few degrees of those afternoon highs and topped out into the upper 50s to low 60s over towards the Odessa area. And the western Permian Basin really starting to warm up, and also the Trans-Pecos was 66 down towards Fort Stockton. Looking at the Tall City skyline this evening, it is a quiet one out there and a little on the chilly side. We're now down to 51 in the city of Midland, 52 in Odessa, but you get outside the city, 49 there at the Miller National Air and Spaceport and over towards Big Spring at the present time. And there's a touch of breeze out there across the area. Not too bad, but adding to wind chill values, dropping them by about 5 degrees is what it feels like. And take a look at that forecast temperature trend. Going up here over the next few days is a sunny, dry forecast. Looks to hang around into your weekend.
Thanks, Tom. The Region 18 Education Service Center hosted the annual Transition Fair for high school students who are graduating soon. Colleges and employers were at this event to help students with information about career opportunities and education. This was the largest transition fair that they have had in a while. About 450 students attended in this event, and this event was also to help students with special disabilities.
It's just a massive opportunity for them to continue their education and settle into the world on a little better footing than if they just rolled right out of high school.
There was sessions where students can learn how to prepare for the workforce. Motivational speakers spoke to students to give them motivation to achieve their goals after high school. And most people enjoy music, but for one OHS student, it's a passion that he can't help but share in person and online with thousands of followers. Zachary Hightower's love for music is a bright spot on social media as well as here at OHS. Music has always been a part of Zachary's life. It helped him learn to walk and talk after he was a victim of shaken baby syndrome by a non-family member. So for his 14th birthday, he wished to share his passion on TikTok. And over the last 2 years, his account has grown to have more than 9,000 followers.
That's what I'm trying to do, is be a country star like all my friends, Luke Combs, Jason Aldean, Carrie Underwood, Kane Brown.
He also shares his dreams with classmates. He often comforts other life skills students with the song. And mark your calendars because Sunday is daylight savings. And because of that, it means we gain an hour of sleep, but it also means shorter days and colder days are around the corner. As temperatures drop and the daily amount of sunshine decreases, it's common for people to experience an impact on their mental health. Seasonal affective disorder, also known as SAD, is a type of depression that appears in people depending on the season. Most people who experience SAD have it during the winter since there is less sunlight.
If people already have any depression or anxiety or just any, if they're sensitive to any kind of disruption in their normal life patterns, right? So once again, getting up, going to work in the dark, coming home in the dark. If you have children that are still living at home, they're very sensitive to the changes. Nobody tells a young child that the time change and they have to go to bed earlier or later.
Across the United States, approximately 70% of the Americans will experience seasonal depression. And hundreds of foreign nationals, including some Americans, are in Egypt tonight after they were allowed to cross the border from Gaza today. This comes as Israeli airstrikes target a refugee camp inside Gaza for the second time in as many days. Tina Kraus has the latest from Tel Aviv, Israel.
The gate between Egypt and Gaza became an opening to freedom Wednesday for about 500 foreign passport holders and some critically wounded Palestinians who've been trapped in a war zone for more than 3 weeks.
So we came here hoping to leave. We have a little hope to leave and save our lives.
U.S. diplomatic sources say Qatari and U.S. officials brokered the deal to open the border crossing. A handful of Americans crossed into Egypt Wednesday, including doctors Barbara Zind from Colorado and Ramona Okamura from Washington State. U.S. officials say they're trying to evacuate about 1,000 people, Americans and their families.
We'll see more of this process going on in the coming days. Working nonstop to get Americans out of Gaza as soon and as safely as possible.
U.S. citizen Fatih Abu al-Hassan is still trapped.
No water, no food, no shelter, nothing. We open our eyes on the dead people.
Hamas says another Israeli airstrike hit the densely populated Jabalia refugee camp in Gaza Wednesday, a day after Israeli bombs cratered a large swath of the same residential neighborhood. Hamas says nearly 200 Palestinians were killed and more than 100 are still missing under the rubble. Israel's military says it destroyed a Hamas command center and took out the man who planned the October 7th attack that killed 1,400 Israelis. Israel says its ground forces are now at the gates of Gaza City, and both sides report fierce fighting. Hamas also claims 7 of the more than 200 hostages it's holding were killed in Tuesday's bombing raid. Tina Kraus, CBS News, Tel Aviv.
Lawmakers in the House of Representatives are meeting this evening to write a bill that would provide aid for Israel in its fight against Hamas. But it does not include money to support Ukraine and other national security needs, and the proposed way to pay for it is drawing a veto threat from the White House. Natalie Brand has more details from Capitol Hill.
New House Speaker Mike Johnson trekked over to the Senate to push for his proposal of a standalone bill to provide aid to Israel. His plan not only faces resistance from Democrats, but the Senate Republican leader as well.
In order to make a law, it has to pass both bodies and be signed by the president. And we'll see if the bill comes out of the House, and if so, what kind of margin it has.
Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell opposes Johnson's plan to separate Israeli aid from Ukraine, Taiwan, and border security as part of the president's more than $100 billion request.
I'm just speaking for myself. I think we need to address all 4 of those areas in a credible way.
The House Republican proposal pays for the aid to Israel by cutting funding to the IRS to hire new auditors. But a Congressional Budget Office report shows that plan may not pay off.
The CBO's analysis estimates cutting the funding to the IRS would raise the deficit by around $12.5 billion over the next 10 years. House Republicans defend the plan.
Any member of the House of Representatives that votes to fund the IRS and not to fight evil is something they're going to have to live with.
Speaker Johnson wants to vote on his bill as early as Thursday.
House Republicans are asking a price for helping them by cutting off funding that holds rich tax cheats accountable. That ain't happening, House. It ain't happening.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is urging the Speaker to start over, saying a bipartisan deal is the only way forward. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
And Donald Trump Jr. was called to take the stand in the New York civil fraud trial against the Trump Organization. Graham Cates has the latest from the courthouse in Lower Manhattan.
Donald Trump Jr. questioned by attorneys for New York Attorney General Letitia James about what her office calls a decade's worth of fraud at the Trump Organization that she says benefited the family and the company to the tune of $250 million. Of the 3 adult children, Donald Trump Jr. has the most to do with the many deals that are a part of this case and also overseeing former President Trump's assets. So in some ways, he gets to be this kind of broad overview before we get to the more granular stuff that Eric Trump and Ivanka Trump are going to have to testify to. On Thursday, Eric Trump is expected to take the stand. On Monday, former President Donald Trump himself will be called to the stand. And after him, Ivanka Trump. Graham Cates, CBS News, New York.
And now for a look at today's top headlines shown here in real time with real viewers on CBS7.com. See all of these stories and more by downloading our app or visiting our website at CBS7.com. And still ahead, could interest rates continue to spike? We'll have that and more up next in your consumer news. And it's that time of year again, time for Tom's Coat. As the temperatures drop, many West Texans are struggling to stay warm. That's why Chief Meteorologist Tom Teeverteller is hosting a coat drive. CBS7 is looking for gently used or new jackets or sweaters for the drive. You can donate jackets and coats at the locations listed on your screen. Borrowers have seen interest rates skyrocket in the past year. One key interest rate is currently at a 22-year high, but it's not going any higher for now. Bradley Blackburn explains.
The Federal Reserve's latest interest rate strategy is to leave them alone.
Given how far we have come, along with the uncertainties and risks we face, the committee is proceeding carefully.
The Fed hasn't raised its short-term benchmark rate since July, but an active bond market is pushing up long-term rates. Interest on credit cards is at a 20-year high. Used car loans are over 11%, up 46% from 2020. And in 2 years, mortgage rates have jumped from 3% to nearly 8%.
These levels will slow down the pace of borrowing, which should in turn also keep the economy slowing.
Higher interest rates are designed to reduce consumer spending power and in turn bring down inflation.
But Americans went on a spending spree this past summer, and inflation has remained stuck above 3%. The Fed wants it at just 2%. There is some evidence buying is slowing. A new Gallup poll predicts Americans will spend a little less this year during the holidays.
If that spending starts to resume in a significant way in the next 2 months, that could keep the pressure on prices.
Powell says another rate hike is possible if inflation doesn't head in the right direction.
The process of getting inflation sustainably down to 2% has a long way to go.
The Fed makes its next decision on rates in December. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
Well, we are going to be looking at a warmer weather pattern in our forecast. We'll talk about that. Get you ready for your weekend coming up next.
Now, from the CBS7 First Alert Weather Center, here's Chief Meteorologist Tom Teepertiller.
Well, we are going to be looking at a little bit warmer weather pattern as high pressure is going to be in charge of our weather. It's a chilly one out there this evening if you've been out and about, as we are looking at clear skies and temperatures cooling off into the upper 40s now around Big Spring out towards the Miller National Air and Spaceport. Still hanging on to the lower 50s in a few spots. And the coolest over here towards Marfa on the plateau, looking at 46 degrees. High pressure in control of the weather, and this ridge of high pressure across the western U.S., well, that is going to continue to slide off to the east ever so slowly, so it's going to continue to control the weather. We're going to be looking at lots of sinking air, so that's going to mean clear skies, sunny skies for the most part. Maybe a cloud or two mixed in, and there will be another weak front drop down, but it's not going to do much anything to temperatures, as we are going to be looking at things overall warming up on some southerly winds here over the next couple of days. Across the state of Texas, about as quiet as it gets out there. A couple of clouds across portions of South Texas is really about it. As high temperatures today, everybody was pretty comfortable, even down towards the lower Rio Grande Valley. 72 degrees there, 56 in Dallas for the high today. And we were cool out in West Texas, 67, a little warmer out towards far West Texas and El Paso. So for the rest of tonight, here's what we are going to be looking at, seeing those temperatures again slide down into the mid to upper 30s, it looks like, first thing in the morning. So a little on the chilly side early on, but we'll rebound nicely coming up tomorrow, as we'll see those temperatures into the upper 60s. Thanks to south winds, that'll be a little bit gusty across the area. And your CBS7 First Alert exclusive 10-day forecast, we are going to be looking at a warming trend in our forecast for the rest of the week and into the weekend. Well, by Sunday, we could be approaching 80 degrees. Don't forget about that time change. We fall back 1 hour early on Sunday morning, get back on standard time. Be a good time, too, to check the batteries in your smoke detectors in your house, too. And then next week, we're going to start off with some 80s, but a stronger cool front is on the way Thursday into Friday, and that's going to bring some fall weather back to the forecast.
Still ahead, we're keeping an eye on your money on CBS 7 News at 9 on the CW. Now that Halloween is over, it's time to start thinking about Thanksgiving and how much the big meal could cost you. There's good news when it comes to turkeys. Prices for the Thanksgiving bird are down 13% compared to last year and could fall even lower as we get closer to the holiday. That's according to the Wells Fargo Agri-Food Institute. Turkeys are often a loss leader, meaning stores sell them at a discount to get shoppers in the door.
And with wholesale prices down almost 30% from a year ago, that gives the retailer a lot of room to discount those turkeys as we get right towards Thanksgiving.
Ham, on the other hand, will cost you more. It's up about 5% from last year, and canned cranberries are even more expensive, up 60% this year. But fresh fruits and vegetables are either at or below last year's prices. And new data from the Labor Department shows paychecks in the U.S. grew faster than expected in the third quarter this year. The Employment Cost Index, a broad measure of total compensation paid to American workers, rose 1.1% last quarter. That's a faster pace than the 1% gain registered in the second quarter. Year over year, wages and benefits grew 4.3% in the third quarter, a slower pace than the second quarter's 4.5%. The third quarter compensation increases illustrate ongoing momentum in the job market. And attention parents, an important recall to put on your radar. If you have this Costco Jump Spin and Play Activity Center, the Durrell Juvenile Group, the company that makes it, says to stop using it immediately. It's being recalled because the straps can detach or break while your kid is playing in it, potentially causing injury. The Consumer Product Safety Commission says this involves two model numbers, WA105 FCW and WA105 GML. If you have one of those, you should call the company and they'll work you through how to go about getting a replacement. The Activity Center is exclusively sold at Walmart. And still ahead, a recent study suggests that cats have hundreds of different facial expressions. It turns out your cat may not be as aloof as you think they are. In fact, a new study suggests that they are quite expressive, especially with other felines. The researchers filmed 53 cats at a cat cafe in California between August of 2021 and June of 2022. In all, they had over 3 hours of footage featuring 186 feline interactions. Overall, the researchers observed 276 distinct facial expressions. The study authors say 45% of the expressions were friendly, while 37% were aggressive. They hope to expand the research to include cats living in multi-cat homes and in feral communities. They would also like to try to decipher what the expressions mean. Tom, how did they know the difference between one expression and the other?
I don't know. Two things on this story that are interesting. First, they could do a whole story on what a cat cafe is.
Yes, that's fascinating.
Okay, now that's interesting. I don't think I could come up with 276 different expressions.
No.
So that is amazing for cats.
And how do you know the cat's making that expression?
I don't know. There's a lot of interest on this story here, but it is interesting that they're finding out that they're not as aloof as people think.
Yeah, and if they really do crack the code and figure out what the expressions mean, then
wow,
we'll be able to read our cats
somebody
pretty well.
Somebody can write that dissertation, okay?
Yeah, there you go.
Anyway, here's our dissertation on the weather. Warm and dry, as we're going to see Temperatures warm up quite a bit into the weekend.
Thanks for watching CBS 7 First Alert News at 9 on the CW.